What'd she say? Nah, that's not true. Good evening. We will call the Burlington City Council April 7th, 2015 meeting to order. I'd like to welcome each of you here tonight. I'd also like to remind you to turn off all electronic devices. If you would pray with me. Dear Lord, please be with each of us as we come together to conduct matters of the city. Guide our hearts and minds that we may be fair and impartial as we strive to do what's best for the city and our citizens. Thank you for your guidance and wisdom. Amen. Also, I'd like to remind you that Councilmember Bob Ward will not be attending tonight's council meeting due to having some minor surgery, and his doctor's orders state that he rest at home. We wish him a quick recovery. This time, we have first item on the agenda is a proclamation, Alcohol Awareness Month. At this point in time, we'd recognize Miss Emily Daniels. Proclamation, Alcohol Awareness Month, April 2015 in the city of Burlington, North Carolina. Whereas the month of April has been designated as Alcohol Awareness Month, whereas across our nation, alcohol abuse is a major public health problem that affects Americans from all communities of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds, and whereas alcohol kills more children than illegal drugs combined, and whereas 29% of high school students in Alamance County report having at least one drink of alcohol the past 30 days, and whereas underage drinkers consume nearly 10% of all alcohol sold in North Carolina, totaling $526 million in sales, and whereas over half of the teens in Alamance County between ages 13 through 18 say it is easy to get alcohol, and 24% report using alcohol in their home or at a friend's house, and whereas parents can have significant impact on their children's decisions to not drink alcohol by setting clear no alcohol rules and by supporting this rule with zero tolerance. And whereas underage drinking alone costs the citizens of North Carolina $1.5 billion in medical care, work loss, and in pain and suffering associated with multiple problems resulting from the use of alcohol by youth, and whereas Alamance County Youth Advisory Council and Alamance Citizens for a Drug-Free Community are working to raise awareness statewide to mobilize efforts within communities to implement strategies and prevent alcohol abuse and dependency by decreasing underage access to alcohol, changing community norms that promote underage and excessive alcohol consumption, and address policies pertaining to underage and excessive drinking. Now, therefore, I, Ronnie K. Wall, Mayor of the City of Burlington, do hereby proclaim April 2015 as Alcohol Awareness Month in the City of Burlington, North Carolina, and commend this observance to all citizens this 7th day of April 2015.
My name is Emily Daniels. I attend the Hawbridge School, and I'm in the 8th grade. I am a member of the Alamance County Youth Advisory Council. ACIAC is a group of teens that work together in our community in the fight against underage drinking. Most recently, I have been trained to do merchant education, encouraging off-premise holders of selling alcohol, or convenience stores to card customers and limit signage. During our last ACIAC meeting, we learned about powdered alcohol. The possibility of this coming into our community concerns me. Thus, we are writing letters to our North Carolina representatives to pass a bill to prevent the sale of it. If you are interested any further in this topic, I'd be glad to email you. Thank you for all your service in this community.
Thank you. This time we'd like to recognize National Service Recognition Day, April 7, 2015. This time we'd recognize Mr. Tim Jeffers. Mr. Jeffers, welcome. Proclamation proclaiming April 7, 2015, Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service, whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet community needs, and whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve, whereas national service participants serve in more than 70,000 locations across the country, strengthening the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve with both through their direct service and by recruiting and managing millions of additional volunteers, whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and influences non-federal resources to strengthen community impact, increase the return on taxpayer dollars, and whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with mayors across the country to support the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April 7, 2015. Therefore, it be resolved that I, Ronnie K. Wall, Mayor of the City of Burlington, do hereby proclaim April 7, 2015 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city and to thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to the communities. This, the 7th day of April, 2015.
Good evening. On behalf of Burlington Housing Authority's Interim Executive Director, Ms. Veronica Revels, our Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, Senior Corps, Project Doe, AmeriCorps, we accept your proclamation. In addition to our national service men and women, we'd also like to recognize Ms. Tammy Cobb, Commissioner for the North Carolina Commission of Volunteerism and Community Service. Ms. Cobb was appointed by Governor Pat McCrory to serve in that capacity. And although they're not present, we'd also like to recognize Elon University Campus Kitchen. They're national service participants as well, and they had a prior engagement this evening. And if it doesn't disturb the meeting too much, we'd like to get a picture with the volunteers as well as the council members and the mayor.
Sure.
Picture here. Be in the background. Beverly, you gonna wind this up? Big basketball player. He's about 100.
That gonna be?
Maybe too much. Somebody got intentional. Or healthy. Could have just done it all in pieces. Just don't know. Nuts can do. Some vegetables can do. Want me to get lunch?
Councilmember, one more.
Sorry.
But weight's like 22 22 pounds. They're all 10, 89, let's see. That's, your fingers get old. That was a photographic group there?
Yes, sir.
We're not going to be disrupted. We lost a council person as well. There we go.
Came back.
Okay, this presentation to the council, this time we'd recognize Ms. Nelson. Welcome, Ms. Nelson.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. The contract for Burlington's comprehensive plan was awarded to Ratio Architects Incorporated. A grant totaling $20,000 was received for this project through the North Carolina Community Transformation Grant Project, and the public kickoff was in May of last year. Ratio specializes in design-based planning, physical enhancement, and they have a variety of disciplines covered, including landscape architecture, historic preservation, and economic development. Presenting tonight for Ratio are Paul Lipchak and Jackie Turner.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you for having time for us today. Let me just get the presentation started in here. So I want to thank you for putting us on the agenda tonight to talk about the Destination Burlington Comprehensive Plan. Tonight, I just want to take you through a few items, introducing both myself. I'm Paul Lipchak with Ratio. Jackie Turner is Jackie Turner right there with Ratio, and have some acknowledgments for the other folks who have helped in the plan. We want to cover why we believe you should update your comprehensive plan. We want to take you through the Destination Burlington planning process, talk about the vision and goals for the plan, and a number of the priority issues of the plan. And then finally talk about reaching the destination that is outlined in the plan. So our consultant team, as Amy said, is led by Ratio. We also had RKG Associates join us on the team. They were doing demographic analysis, economic development analysis, and recommendations. And we had Stewart Engineering, who is leading the effort in terms of public infrastructure analysis and recommendations. So although the city has only seen 3 or 4 of us at any given moment, all of these folks that you see on the screen right now have contributed greatly to the consultant team effort in this comprehensive plan. But we must recognize, of course, that the comprehensive planning team is not just the consultants who come and assist, but it's the city council, it's the city staff, Amy and Nolan and everyone in their departments that have helped us. It's the steering committee that was assembled to assist the process, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and all of the participants in community engagement events and workshops and forums and discussions throughout a little bit over a year-long process. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, and she's going to talk a little bit about comprehensive planning.
Hi, and Jackie Turner, as Amy and Paul mentioned. I've been a planner with Ratio for almost 10 years and a planner by trade for over 25. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about comprehensive planning. While we do comprehensive plans all the time, and I've worked on more than 24 in the last 10 years, I realize that it's not something that you do all the time or staff does all the time. Burlington has a comprehensive plan. The last one was done in 1991. Comprehensive plans are usually revised about every 10 years. Some communities are really aggressive and do it every 5 years, but especially we find a lot having been revised since the recession, when so many things in growth and development and jobs in communities changed. This has been a year-long planning effort as Paul, actually a little bit more than a year long. We had the kickoff public meeting last May, but started working with staff more than a year ago. And it is different. You'll see some images throughout the presentation as Paul goes that might look, like zoning. In a lot of communities, you're more familiar with the zoning plan and rezonings and that sort of thing. It is not the same as your zoning ordinance. It is a broader plan with longer term. This one has a 20-year horizon, so you'll see 2035 on the little destination Burlington that was actually designed here for the community. And so that's the horizon for this. The recommendations and implementation measures that are in the end of the plan do not obligate city leadership or staff to do anything. They are a guide for this administration, for this staff, but then also for the administration and staff that might come along 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Why update a comprehensive plan? As I mentioned, yours is a bit dated, and it might not address the demographics of the way your community is now. You may have had more industry and manufacturers that were here 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and the picture has really changed. The people moving into your community, and a whole generation has come along since then. One of the reasons that communities update a comprehensive plan is to maybe help with their capital improvements planning, their 5-year plans. And it also serves as a foundation for a zoning ordinance and subdivision ordinance. In this particular instance, I believe that you all are familiar because I'm part of the Unified Development Ordinance team that is actually overlapping this process a little bit. It's still in the very early stages, but the ordinances usually take the principles and some of the priorities in the plan as part of their foundation. So it's hard to move forward with a modern ordinance that addresses a modern community when you still have the planning principles of the early 90s, which was quite a different time. What is a Unified Development Ordinance? You may have heard that term. That is what Burlington is pursuing, but basically it's the combination of a zoning ordinance and a subdivision ordinance. There are some economies of time and savings in that. Both of those use the same definitions, the same procedures. You can add in other documents with it, and it just becomes a handy tool, a handbook for you to use as you're making decisions, for the Planning and Zoning Commission to use, for staff to use. And also the zoning ordinance is used to the things that even homeowners and residents and business owners would use is when you're looking at things like parking and signage and landscaping. So those are the details that are included in that. Those are not in a comprehensive plan. It's definitely broader policies and guiding. As Amy mentioned, this plan was partially funded by a Center for Disease Control Community Transformation grant that Burlington secured a couple of years ago. And so this, while a comprehensive plan can have a lot of different elements, always land use, transportation issues, economic development, this one talks about wellness and talks about healthy lifestyles and access to food. And so that's a little bit different. That's a little bit of added feature for your comprehensive plan. And by adopting this plan, and we would sort of fulfill you sort of bring full circle this particular planning process. So a little bit about specifically to the Burlington's process. That first meeting, the public workshop, was held a year ago in sort of what was probably our imagination phase. Our particular company uses a 7-step process that just sort of helps guide us through the comprehensive plan for a community of your size. And so this is what we went through over the year, but throughout the entire plan was a robust community engagement. And this right here, you can't read it at all, but this is the schedule that we used. And the bars represent the tasks that we do or we're working with staff and do, but the circles represent all the times where we had meetings or engagement with the steering committee, or with staff. The asterisks that are up there represent public meetings that were noticed, or including these particular meetings, but in meetings that are open to the public or ones that are public hearings. Besides having the meetings, we had other sort of outreach including flyers that were posted, press releases that were done, and we sort of partnered with staff in the community outreach for the community. And before we even got involved in the process, staff had worked with local student groups and come up with the name for this plan, Destination Burlington, the 2015 to 2035 horizon. And then we stepped in to just continue that process. We had online surveys available through SurveyMonkey to make it convenient for to have 24/7 access. Over 550 responses in the community from different IP addresses. And access through a city webpage for the comprehensive plan. And then finally, we had sort of the traditional things that you have with the face-to-face meetings, which were community workshops, a steering committee that was composed of 22 members that met 7 times over the course of the year. Stakeholder interviews is when you need to really touch bases with particular groups that the folks on that group share a similar interest, and we need to get more detailed information. So we had 6 of those interviews. We had some do-it-yourself planning kits for people who can't make it to a meeting, and that could be led, and we've done that in other projects where we may have done it with the Chamber of Commerce group, or with a Sunday school group, or with a seniors class in high school to get input if they're not participating in a workshop. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Paul to talk about the vision and goals in the plan, and I'd be happy to answer any questions later.
So I just want to talk about the vision and goals of the plan now. And in front of you, and on the first page of our comprehensive plan, is a vision statement wrote by the mayor that kind of encapsulates all of the most important issues and goals that we ran into in the process of the plan. I think it bears going over again and again as you look through the plan to really have this set out the vision and the tone of what follows it in the plan. So during the community engagement, we heard a lot of heartfelt goals, several of them. Heard early, often, and enthusiastically. So these are really the issues that rose to the surface. They're the goals that really had a lot of currency in the community. I just want to go over those quickly. Downtown was a topic of conversation for sure, both in terms of its symbolic significance as the heart of the community, also as an area of redevelopment opportunity. And so folks appreciate the vibrancy that downtown already has, but want to build on that, want it to really become the kind of core of their community. We heard a lot about greenways and how the citizens want a greenway system in the city, something that will promote connectivity, but also has other benefits that we can talk about in just a moment. Public transit was something that came up a lot. The city has already moved forward with that, and that's been a great success so far, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Redevelopment was important, a theme that came up very often. Underutilized industrial and commercial sites in particular give the opportunity for redeveloping areas of the city. Environmental stewardship, the citizens of the community understand that clean water, clean air, the surface waters, the rivers, the streams, the farmland, the woods, these are all very important parts of what makes Burlington special and also a livable and healthy community. And kind of underlying all of the conversations is economic development. And now that we're in the post-Great Recession era, that folks want to have economic development be something that's really stable and thought about and well considered. So now I want to talk about how the plan responded to those kind of core issues. And returning again to downtown, the comp plan really wants to build on the work that's being done by Burlington Downtown Corporation, which recently they just won 2 awards from the Main Street Conference, which is great. I think their work is amazing, and a perfect foundation for the kinds of opportunities that the plan talks about. So streetscape and public open space enhancements are important. The kind of design of the public realm, connecting North and South Main Street districts so that we kind of broaden our definition of what the core is and start to knit those areas into the success of downtown. Programming and events is very important too. The Burlington Downtown Corporation and the city have done a great job at establishing those kinds of programs and events. And to be able to build on that and really make this the kind of living room for Burlington for all the citizens. Redevelopment opportunities that exist in downtown. Downtown housing is something that a lot of the communities express interest in seeing happen. And that's really creating a mix of uses and having that downtown residential population being able to support the mix of uses that occurs. So the retail, the entertainment, the restaurants. The LabCorp storefronts in downtown, there's an opportunity there to create street-level activity where once there wasn't. And so the ability to have the retail, and that kind of street presence and creating that activity. There's an opportunity for creating a cultural arts district along Main and Front Streets and the kind of core area of downtown, but also a makers district in North Main Street, which has been dubbed NOMA. So the NOMA's Makers District would be a place for entrepreneurs and innovators to kind of set up shop and be alongside artisans and craftspeople in this interesting kind of funky urban neighborhood that's just north of the Amtrak station. There are also a number of redevelopable lots and buildings around downtown. Of course, at Main and Front, we're seeing that happen right now. And so identifying those kinds of opportunities is an important part of the plan. Greenways, in terms of regional connectivity, this is trying to plug into the Haw River Trail, which has been a great regional collaboration. It's also the plan is building on the 2012 pedestrian plan and supporting a forthcoming bicycle plan, which I think will be a great complement to pedestrian plan. In terms of implementation opportunities for greenways in the city, rivers and creeks are crossing the city, and that is usually a good kind of venue or good trail for the greenways, so flood zones or riparian corridors. But utility rights of way are another opportunity. So partnering with utility companies to explore the ability of public access to those corridors and easements. Also partnering with the railroad companies to not do a rails to trail, which is for rails that are not used anymore, but really a rail with a trail. And so using some amount of the easement there as a way of extending greenway connectivity. And also integrating with roadway corridor redesign. So we know that those projects that do move forward in terms of revitalizing corridors, that those streets can be considered as pathways also for multi-use paths and greenways. And just some of the benefits of that, aside from regional and local connectivity, these are locations for environmental improvement measures, recreational opportunities, which also relates to the health, public health, and economic development attractors. These are amenities that attract businesses that have employees who like a greater quality of life. To touch on public transit, as I noted before, the city has made great leaps in the year that we've been working on this. Now has adopted these 4 transit routes, and they're touching a lot of the most important kind of sites, amenities, facilities of the city, and I think that's been great progress. So the plan seeks to kind of build on that progress in terms of creating equitable access to those services, the environmental benefit of reduced traffic congestion and reliance on cars. Essentially where the plan can capitalize on the transit system is in redevelopment efforts. So an integrated planning of routes and stops with development sites is important. and streetscaping efforts as it relates to transit stops. And so the ability to use transit stops or, for example, the transit hub that I think the city will probably need in downtown. It's a way of kind of distributing to these 4 different lines a catalyst potential of having a lot of that activity, for instance, next to the Amtrak station, and being able to create activity in this North Main district. There are a number of redevelopment sites around the city that have been identified, essentially through community input, city staff guidance, and our own redevelopment readiness assessment. We've identified these former commercial, or I should say underutilized commercial and industrial sites, and that, you know, these sites have possibility for some kind of catalytic change in the neighborhoods adjacent. So really these are locations that allow kind of contemporary urban design and contemporary planning standards and you know, the kind of design vitality to come into neighborhoods that are currently underserved. We're getting new uses. We could have multifamily affordable housing, grocery stores, and that kind of thing. These redevelopments can also enhance what may be unattractive corridors or gateways to the city that don't create a good first impression. And it's also an opportunity to address site cleanup issues in a way that it, you know, is done through partnerships between public and private sector investment. Environmental stewardship, as I mentioned before, the community has expressed concerns about creeks and rivers, farmland preservation, drinking water and air quality, and natural habitat and environmental features. These are important parts of the character of the community. And the plan supports the Water Resources Department and you know, in their compliance with the Jordan Lake rules, so that these greenways, for instance, can be used as a vehicle for assisting stormwater management, as well as roadway corridor enhancements for green infrastructure, and also the use of zoning. The zoning ordinance is a way of preserving agricultural land. Economic development. The plan is really suggesting supporting the quality economic growth sectors that are emerging right now. So advanced manufacturing, professional and technical services, information technology, healthcare, arts and entertainment. Those are the sectors that are going to create real growth in the 21st century and real stability in the economy. And one of the things the plan does do is recommend creating a home for the kind of sectors that will be growing and will be really strong. So one concept is called the Carolina Corridor Commerce Park, which is an area around the airport just south of the interstate highway where the conditions are really ripe for a kind of coordinated commerce park development. And you know, just kind of back of the envelope ideas and what that could mean, maybe 2,500 to 5,000 new jobs with private sector development. And so, you know, this is an area that around the Sheetz distribution warehouse in Honda where there's already an attraction of those kinds of growing sectors. One of the most important products of the comprehensive planning process is a future land use map. And before I kind of jump into that map, I want to go over some of the, I guess, foundational principles of that. And this is all resulting from what we've heard from the community, you know, what land use principles are important to everybody here. Focusing development within the existing urban footprint is important. So we're not prioritizing greenfield sites, we're really prioritizing infill and more concentrated development near the core of the city. protecting the rural periphery so that we keep those areas of the city's jurisdiction that are open agricultural land in that same character to the extent that we can. Creating this Carolina Corridor Commerce Park and kind of packaging that idea for the investment community. Strengthening and seeding neighborhood centers. There are some in the city. There are places where other smaller neighborhood centers could grow and could be very useful for the adjacent neighborhoods. And finally, focusing regional commerce at interstate exits. Putting the kind of destination retail and those types of uses in places where they're more easily managed, which are the interstate exit interchanges, and freeing up the former grand corridors of the city, the Church Street and Webb Avenue, for institutions and commercial uses that really serve neighborhoods and the community. So the resultant future land use map, there are a number of things that I'll point out and that you'll note. First of all, that this is not a zoning map. So this is, and the uses that are described here are not directly relatable to zoning districts or categories that are in the current zoning code. And that is on purpose. You'll also see a number of kind of diagrammatic elements, some dotted circles, some fuzzy boundaries to some of the colors. This is all by design. The idea here is that we're establishing a pattern of land use, or this map is trying to establish that pattern for the next 20 years. And so you'll see a lot of the kind of traces of those land use principles showing through on this map. Our intent isn't to create a map that someone goes to and points out their property and says, oh, my property is supposed to be a different land use. The idea is to have a general intent and to be more broad brush and to allow the decision makers interpretation of the intent and the ideas that are in this plan, so that when an opportunity comes to the city, you can look at the opportunity and look at this map and say, yeah, this seems consistent. Well, I don't know where that parcel is exactly on this map. The idea is consistent, comprehensive plan. So I just now want to quickly go through what is the implementation process here. How do we reach that destination? The last chapter of the comp plan is the implementation strategies chapter. Within that, we have an implementation matrix. And essentially what that is extracting the goals and recommendations out of each one of the individual chapters, putting it in a tabular form, and then we can start to associate partner organizations that may be around the table trying to accomplish some of these recommendations and the tasks that are involved in that. There's no obligation, again. None of these partners have to sit at the table, but if they do, this is the group of agencies and organizations that we would think would be involved. Each one of these recommendations has a suggested time frame, whether it's a short-term quick win or an ongoing initiative. It outlines some potential funding sources for each recommendation. And really this table is something that should be reviewed and updated periodically, perhaps even annually. And so you can start to measure success in realizing the comprehensive plan goals through this and be able to reprioritize as necessary. So part of the reason that I'm here tonight is for advocacy of adopting the plan. The process of adoption is something that, in my mind, really started back when we released the draft plan to the public for review and comment in December. We then heard all of the comments, we addressed them, responded to them, and issued another draft in late February. And then in March, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the plan to City Council. And that brings us to today's presentation. And our hope is that you'll be able to set up a public hearing so that the public can express their ideas and interests in the plan moving forward. So that's all I had to present. I thank you again for your time, and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Questions or comments from council?
Just a couple of questions. The comprehensive plan, the draft in and of itself talks a lot about our 2012 PED plan, the 2012 Recreation and Parks Master Plan, so they all intertwine and tie in together, which I've found that to be very helpful to go back and refer to those and kind of see where they cross-reference. But it also talks about, it references an important next step for high-priority corridors, like a corridor planning. Is that something separate? Is that something that would need to be done in addition to?
Yes, it's a more kind of fine-tuned look at each one of these corridors. And so, for example, North Church Street might be a planning project where a consultant would, maybe be hired to look at a stretch of that roadway and its opportunities for reconfiguration, for adding additional modes of transit, redevelopment potential. So it's the idea with that is that each one of those high priority corridors would become a new, more refined planning project.
And I also just, since you are sort of, a lot of times communities might take a 1 or 2 months or 1 or 2 years before they then move into doing ordinance work, and you are actually undertaking
Moving right
that
forward,
now.
yeah.
So one of the ways that can be studied is looking at corridors. A lot of times ordinances will have a corridor overlay. So you could take the whatever through the public process and working with staff, whatever rises to the top is your priority corridors. And you could set particular standards. You could set how you might accommodate additional modes of transportation at the time that redevelopment might be done adjacent. So if it's something, as the meetings start to happen with the UDO, if that is something that you want to focus on, then our firm, and we're working with Code Right on that, would take a look at corridor overlay standards.
Thank you. Any other questions from council?
Just to ask Councilmember Butler, you were speaking about the economic development Carolina corridor, or were you talking about the gateways?
Well, I think both. In essence, it would encompass both. One, I mean, obviously, one of the high priorities is economic development, so it would certainly be sufficient for that. And the other one, would be the gateways, greenways. So, I mean, I think they would be comprehensive in nature to do that. What I found out in reading this is a lot of the recommendations actually serve more than one goal. So if you can attack those recommendations, you actually start chipping away at multiple goals simultaneously by focusing on those. So certainly if we started down a process like that, I think that would connect both of those.
And in terms of, if you're looking at, since the Carolina corridor is more of looking like a high-tech business park or sort of thing, there is a tool within ordinance planning where you could look at using like a planned unit development or planned unit business, and you could outline boundaries for a particular area. You may not know exactly where they are now, because this plan, the map that was up there, is a little bit fuzzy, but you could start with having that sort of synergy between Honda and Sheetz, and if you know of owners where you might go for the future, then you could identify that, and that would become a particular district with particular standards.
Any other questions from council?
Yeah, I have one. The livability of Burlington, you were saying that infill, where there's opportunity to infill with affordable housing, okay? That seems to me that's, we're running a little short on affordable housing here in Alamance County, or in Burlington. I think that was one of the points that I focused on, was being able to do that, to have affordable housing for the seniors and moderate income, low income people who come in here. So that was one of my key issues on this.
And the plan identifies a few different ways that may happen. Community Development Corporation is one way. that we have a profile in the report that suggests how that might get set up to facilitate that kind of development.
I appreciate the update in the second draft, and using the local experiences and case studies throughout. It looks really nice. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Thank you. Both. Next item on the agenda is the Code of Ethics. This time we recognize City Clerk Renee Ward. Ms. Ward.
As your council, it's my responsibility to remind you of duties to avoid conflicts of interest and matters that are before you. At this time, I ask for any potential conflicts of interest concerning tonight's agenda items.
None. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, March 17, 2015, City Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion that we adopt the agenda as written.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda. These items are typically non-controversial. If anyone has any questions about the following items, please let us know. Item 1A, Budget Amendment 2015-53, CDBG Home Program Loan Repayments, as spelled out in your agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Public hearing. 2, a public hearing has been scheduled to receive citizens' comments on the proposed 5-year consolidated plan for the Community Development Program, which includes the 2015-16 one-year action plan. At this time, we recognize Ms. Tillery. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. The March 17th meeting, you set a date of public hearing tonight to receive comments on the 2015 through 2019 consolidated plan, which includes the one-year action plan. We publicized on March 31st the required 30-day comment period. To date, we haven't received any comments on that plan. I did want to make note of one incorrect number that was in your packet, and that was a mistake on my end. For the budget sheet that looked like this, it said that the total was $512,593. It's actually $519,950, which is just a mistake.
To balance them.
Yeah, to balance it out, yeah. So, you received a summary of the consolidated plan in your packet. And within that, it detailed out 3 priority needs over the next 3 years. Improvement in access to public facilities and services that contribute to the neighborhood development. Improvement of public infrastructure to revitalize neighborhoods. And then decent, affordable housing, including housing that directly reduces homelessness and increases the availability of supportive housing. Those priorities will be incorporated into the one-year action plans going forward, and all of the goals and strategies and programs that we propose will relate back to those priorities that have been set forth in the plan. Also, within your packet, you received a summary of the proposed projects for the upcoming 2015-2016 action plan. Those are detailed out on your project summary. And I'll just briefly go over those. The Fairchild Park gym upgrade, which was $140,000. Our housing rehab program for our revolving loan fund of $100,000. Allied Church's kitchen upgrade, $87,995. Construction training program of $65,000. Burlington Development Corporation matching funds of $23,843. Hatch Street sidewalk project, $27,000. Allied Church's coordinated assessment, $15,000. North Park Library, $10,000. Relocation, $4,000. And then administrative cost.
Questions for Ms. Tillery? I remind you, this is a public hearing as well. Follow. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask about the Hatch Street. Is that a connector?
It's connecting from Lakeside to Rawhut, so that there'll be sidewalks. There's no existing sidewalks on that stretch of road. So, and it was identified in the pedestrian plan as a high area of traffic management.
And the $27,000 for Hyde Street was what?
Hatch Street.
Hatch, oh, I thought you said Hyde. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Tillery? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone on this side that would like to speak?
Mayor, council people. I'm MJ Wilkerson, Director of Alamance County Public Libraries, and we appreciate the support that we've received for North Park through the CDBG, and I hope to be able to continue that support. It's very helpful, and we're really working on developing North Park Library into a very viable, energetic library.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Anyone on this side that would like to speak?
Good evening. I'm Nikki Ratliff with Burlington Housing Authority and Burlington Development Corporation. I'd just like to thank the council for their previous support of our supportive housing programs for the homeless. Those funds helped us stably house 6 chronically homeless individuals and 4 homeless families.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Cap Paler with the Construction Training Project. Thank you for your support. It's on the agenda for the NC Housing Finance Agency for the matching dollars in April and on a Thursday forthcoming, and we appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
Move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next item on the agenda, public hearing has been scheduled to consider rezoning an application rezoned from I-1 Planned Industrial District in B2, General Business District to CB Conditional Business District to allow for unified business development with the use and development conditions as specified in the application. The property is located at 3550 South Church Street, as shown on Alamance County Tax Map 3-26A, Lot 15. This time we recognize Ms. Nelson. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and good evening. This project is a rezoning, and it's an area that's familiar to you, I'm sure, if you've driven down Church Street. And if you take a look at the map I have here, it shows the area crosshatched here. And this area is a rezoning that has the recommendation of staff and the unanimous recommendation of City Council. Of Planning and Zoning Commission. I lost my notes page. I cannot find it. So, now I found it, naturally, after I did that. The commission found that the rezoning will not adversely affect the adjoining property and is in keeping with land uses already in the area, and it's consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. This request is to allow for more flexibility in tenants, since a manufacturing business housed there is moving to other quarters in Burlington to accommodate growth that it's experiencing, which is very good news. And Mr. Rose is here to answer any questions that you might have.
To remind you, this is a public hearing. I guess Mr. Rose.
Yes, Bob.
Any comments from you, Mr. Rose, about this project?
No, I think everything's okay.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone on this side that would like to speak? Anyone on this side that would like to speak?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, based on staff's recommendation and the recommendation from P&Z, I'd make a motion that we approve the request as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Mayor, make a motion that we also approve the statement of consistency, whereas the City Council finds that the above amendment is consistent with the City of Burlington's comprehensive land use plan, and that this action is reasonable and in the public interest, and that the amendment is compatible with the existing land uses in the vicinity and reflects the changing land use patterns in the area.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 4, public hearing has been scheduled to consider an application to rezone from O&I Office and Institutional District to R9 Residential District. The property is located at 2209 Lacey Street, as shown on Alamance County Tax Map 12-15. and being a portion of Lot 99. This time we'd recognize Ms. Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This rezoning request has the recommendation of staff and unanimous recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission also recommended that the official zoning map and comprehensive land use plan be amended to reflect the rezoning. The commission found that the rezoning will not adversely affect the adjoining property and is in keeping with the land uses already in the area. It is also consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. This request is to correct a change that was made prior to the parcel update in our GIS system from the county. The parcel in question was part of the property next door at one time, and it's this little piece right here. And it was, we were proceeding with the update on erroneous information.
It was a part of which property? The O and I property?
It was a part of this, yes, the O&I. Thus, as of September of last year, 2209 Lacey has a portion zoned as O&I, and staff does not support that zoning district any further down Lacey Street. So we would like to change it back to residential.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Nelson? Okay, we remind you of public hearing. Anyone on this side would like to speak? Anyone on this side would like to speak?
And move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Also move to approve the rezoning.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And also make a motion for the statement of consistency. The city council finds that the above amendment is consistent with the City of Burlington Comprehensive Land Use Plan, and that this action is reasonable and in the public interest, and that the amendment is compatible with existing land uses in the vicinity and reflects the changing land use pattern in the area.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. New business, City Council will consider a request to temporarily close Front Street between South Worth Street and Spring Street during the Burlington Junior Women's Club Annual 5K fundraising event on Saturday, April 11th, 2015, from 7:30 a.m. until 10:30 a.m., conditional upon meeting requirements of the city Burlington Special Event Permit application. At this time, we recognize Ms. McCrickard. Ms.
Hi.
McCrickard, hi.
My name's Ivy McCrickard, and I'm the president of the Burlington Junior Women's Club, and we are having our 4th annual Ta-Ta Trot this weekend on Saturday morning. And as you just said, we are requesting that we close Front Street from Worth to Spring Street from 7:30 to 10:30.
Questions or comments for Ms. McCrickard from council?
Move that we approve the request.
I would second that.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, ladies.
We brought you shirts from last
Oh,
year's
wow.
event.
Oh, that's perfect.
You are absolutely perfect.
Do we
Thank
have to
you.
wear tutus for this too?
Tutus are optional, but encouraged.
Yeah, the city clerk and assistant clerk, tutus and
Yes.
public information. Yeah. Don't have one myself.
Thank you. Mhm. Next item on the agenda. City Council consider a request to temporarily close the following streets during the Alamance Regional's 44th Annual Antique Car Club show on Saturday, May 16, 2015, from 6:30 a.m. until 4 p.m., conditional upon meeting requirements of the City of Burlington Special Event Permit application from Front Street, from South Worth Street to South Spring Street, Main Street from East Front Street to East Davis Street. This time we'd recognize Mr. Chip King. Welcome, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Chip King. I'm the 2015 Alamance Region Car Show Chairman, representing our car club that is located in Burlington, North Carolina. We're requesting that the council approve temporary close of the streets that you just listed for our 44th Annual Car Show that is held downtown Burlington, and we'd like to City Council to consider that request.
Questions for Mr. King?
Not really a question, kind of a comment. I think it's wonderful that so many of these events are attracted to downtown, as the center of our city. I hope that you will encourage your membership and people who come to shop the stores downtown while they're here, because it does create some problems with people getting to those stores, so it'd be great if we brought more traffic to them. But I'm delighted to have you, and I make the motion that we approve it.
I second the
Got a
motion.
motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Item number 7, City Council will consider a new proposal for a dual partnership program at the Apple Street subdivision. This time we'd recognize Ms. Tillery. Welcome, Ms. Tillery.
Good evening. As you know, since the city is a recipient of the HOME program, we have to allocate 25% of that allocation to a community housing development organization. In the past, that's solely, we've been working with Alamance County Community Services to develop the Apple Tree subdivision. Over the past few years, there's been some challenges with getting individuals qualified for homes over there. There's also been some new rules enacted from HUD, the expenditure deadlines. In an effort to not lose the funding that we had received from HUD, we reallocated some funds last fall to Habitat for Humanity to do second mortgage on their homes in the community so that they could expend those funds. And they became certified as a CHODO through the City of Greensboro's process. We've had further discussions with both Community Services and Habitat and feel that it would be a great opportunity to work with both of those development organizations in the community to finish out developing the remaining lots of the Apple Tree subdivision. So that's the proposal tonight. Both the executive directors from those agencies are here tonight. They have presented this item to their boards. Their boards are receptive of it. It would kind of create a new arena and new development over there that we haven't seen before, and that's what we're looking for to spur some new development in East Burlington.
Questions for Ms. Tillery?
Well, I appreciate this. I've spoken to both Habitat and Community Service and to our city. This is something that was long needed, and to incorporate these three activities together, we're going to increase affordability for some of these people to be able to get homes. We'll finish out Apple Tree subdivision, which is it's a really nice subdivision. I think we'll have 8 more lots in there.
Yes, we have
8 more lots there. So hopefully, you get these people that are qualified to come in and build there and to create a home for them and be part of the city and be a productive member of society. I think this, it's part of the American dream. And it also helps my little plan for infilling for affordable housing. So I can appreciate that. So thank you, Robin and Community Services, and thank you, Shauna, for getting this guy together. And
Unless we have other comments.
I think it's wonderful, just a great partnership and a good way to do this, get something moving. Really commend you for coming together to do it. It's great. And do we have the motion?
No, ma'am. We're still discussing.
you can if you'd like.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
City Council will consider a final plat approval for Bellawood Development Program West Plaza contingent upon receipt and city staff approval of the required bonds. This property is located at the southeast corner of South Church Street and University Drive, as shown on plans by Scory Land Surveying dated January 23rd, 2015, and containing 9 lots. This time, we would like to recognize Mr. Lawson Brown. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is plat that meets the technical requirements and is just the next step in the process of having this property developed as you have previously zoned it. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Mr. Brown?
I don't have any questions. Anybody? Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the final plat contingent upon the receipt of city staff and the approval of the required bonds.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you all.
All right, item number 9, City Council will consider adopting a resolution to award a contract to PF Plumbing Contractors Incorporated of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the amount of $2,179,440 $1,000.90 for the installation of a 12-inch water line to service the town of Ossipee. Approve the budget amendment 2015-54 to establish Highway 87 water line project ordinance. It's spelled out in your agenda at this time. We will recognize Mr. Lanny Rue. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In August of 2012, the city of Burlington and town of Ossipee entered into an interlocal agreement to supply Ossipee with up to 100,000 gallons of water per day. Ossipee has successfully applied for a loan through the North Carolina Public Water Supply Section Loans and Grants Unit to fund a water line extension from Burlington to serve Ossipee. The intended route of the 12-inch water line begins at the intersection of MacArthur Lane and Highway 87, a connection point to the City of Burlington water supply system, then follows 87 until it terminates at Eldon Drive in Ossipee. The cost to design and construct this water line will be funded by the Public Water Supply Loan. This is a reimbursement loan for the actual cost incurred and will be subject to the following rates and terms of agreement with Ossipee. 80% of the cost is principal forgiveness. 20% of the cost is zero interest loan for a term not to exceed 20 years. Burlington at 75% and Ossipee at 25% respective share of the loan repayment. Burlington supplies the initial funds for construction and design and supplies construction management of the contract. On February 5th, 2015, the city received 4 bids for the construction of the water line, ranging in price from $2.179 million to $2.938 million. The apparent low bidder is PF Plumbing Contractors Incorporated of Winston-Salem. This contractor has completed similar projects for several other municipalities in North Carolina and has satisfactorily completed all required contract documentation required today. Both the town of Ossipee and the North Carolina Public Water Supply Section have approved the award of this contract. Tonight, council is being asked to consider award of the contract to PF Plumbing Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $2,179,440.90.
Questions from council to Mr. Rue?
Mr. Rue, did, with the loan forgiveness portion of this project, was there any restrictions put on the contractors that could bid? Did it matter?
That did not affect the contract.
Have we started delivering pipe up there already?
I don't believe so, no, because we haven't entered into the contract. Once we do the award and a complete
I just
final
don't see
reviews,
it.
It fell off the truck.
Yeah, just saw it going up 87, so I know
Oh,
where it was
really?
going, yeah. Okay.
Oh, some of it's already in the ground, see?
Yeah,
Well,
I figured that. Known it to happen.
Any other questions for Mr. Rue?
Guys, if y'all remember, this was a lengthy project or consideration where, as we get ready to enter the budget phrase, and as Mr. Huffman always said when he was on the other side of the table, we are truly a regional water and sewer supply provider. As you recall, there was a significant amount of legislative efforts in past 3 years that would have dramatic impacts on our ability to do that. One good part of this legislature, that a lot of that consideration has gone away. I'm not saying it's not going to come back at some point in time, but certainly when a neighboring city is in the need, really all Ossipee had was wells. And it had very little opportunity for any kind of fire suppression. And when they came to us, this is an option that truly can expand the lines there. We have capacity. If there's ever an option for us to get involved with the prison farm there in Guilford County, which there's some movement there, that would be a direct line, access off that line to provide service to that site potentially going forward. And secondly, I think it continues the efforts to be the regional provider to help communities at a very, in this situation, a very affordable price. Now, I want to remind you, you will be in control of that line from the access of where it makes contact at MacArthur Lane all the way to Durham Street. So people who have the opportunity to ask for that access because of existing policy will be coming to you all. And that policy does allow for single-family homes or duplexes to be able to attach on if they're adjacent to that line.
Lanny, repeat, where does the line actually stop?
At Eldon Drive,
So where is that in reference to Western High School, Western Middle, and AO?
it's at, I believe, at the entrance to the Western Middle.
That's where it stops?
That's where it stops, yes.
Okay.
They'll have access, Mayor, if they wish to, through the town of Ossipee.
Right. So it's not going to actually go to AO Elementary School. That's beyond Western.
Yeah, it goes by both the schools.
Yeah, well, it has to, if you're going to get to AO. But my question is, does it go as far as the bridge, past AO? It doesn't? Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from council?
Yeah, one, and going up 87 is part of that is Elon, right? So would they still come to us to gain access to water?
Well, as you recall, the agreement between the town of Elon and the city of Burlington went away a few years ago.
Right.
So right now, that water line, it's in right-of-way, and it will be controlled by the city of Burlington.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Move we adopt the resolution to award the contract and approve the budget amendment 2015-54 to establish the Highway 87 Waterline Project ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Ruth. Next item is the staff report, pending legislative issues. Mr. Owen.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, even though there's a vacation in Raleigh this week, the previous weeks have been quite active with the people there. A number of bills that's there, I cannot even, one week there was 200 bills introduced. And so we, especially Rachel and I, go through my nightly exercise to try to figure out what's been filed and and try to figure out what some of them mean. There's some there's one that everybody will appreciate on gun legislation. It's called Homeland Security, which basically creates a new group of people that can be Homeland Security officers that can carry a badge, have a gun, and nobody knows who they are. And if we try to arrest them, then we can be prosecuted for doing so. I mean, so there's some outlandish concepts out there, believe me. But the ones we need to talk about tonight is a couple really important. The sales tax redistribution plan, as we have tried to brief you all, it took us a while to try to figure it out. It has, at the first draft, we figure about a $3.2 million impact on the city of Burlington at the increment of a 3-year as it's progressed through, and that's based on a 3.5% increase in sales tax, which I think there's basis for that in terms that I believe you will see additional items having sales tax placed on it, different services going forward. I mean, I'm pretty confident that's going to occur, really going to have to, I think, at the state level. This is obviously the league is very much opposed to this. You all hopefully have sent us some emails to our representatives. I think there will be some changes. I'm not sure what's going to happen come July. But this is significant. As we'll be talking about in the budget here soon, sales tax right now equals 20% of our revenues in our general fund account, second only to property taxes, same way as in Greensboro, same way as in most cities. This first thing got sent out and said the county would be whole, the cities would, didn't quite get into what the cities would lose.
But the second phase of it did. I mean, the second phase that you saw had every town, city, and village in Alamance County losing money. And Alamance County itself was like 0.8% of gain. So, I mean, I don't know how you lose every town and city and then the county gain, but that was it.
It is significant. This one is, as Councilman Butler indicated, you know, we talked an awful lot about Jordan Lake here. I'm not going to steal Councilman Butler's philosophy, but, you know, Jordan Lake, the people of our community got something because there was investment in infrastructure. This is, we don't get anything. We just lose on this. And I can't tell you, and I wish Mr. Brown had not left because he was very involved. The city invested significant money in the objective in the 2000s to build our commercial sector. I mean, in terms of water and sewer funds, other funds, in terms of getting infrastructure, because these particular businesses out in University Drive just didn't come here for, just to come here. I mean, it was a real effort. So, you know, it's just, that's an important item, and I'll just, we can speak to those, but a couple more historic tax credits on the table. Representative Ross has run that from the House side, it's been approved on the House side, it goes to the Senate. It's a watered-down version, but it's certainly a step forward. Municipal election consideration, a potential bill that will make that even year partisan votes, or a combination thereof. In other words, municipal elections potentially go on an even year basis, not odd year. City of High Point's doing that now, and there's also another bill that would really push everything in the state to a partisan vote. In other words, be based on party, as most cities now are just independent elected. It's a bill on inspections bill, which Representative Rydell's involved. He came to our office. We responded to him about some concerns. I think there might be some modifications. Mayor, I believe the league is very much involved in that one also. And there would be some privilege license discussions, which, you know, that might be somehow tied back to the sales tax redistribution, and I'm not so sure we need to get excited about that. Because privilege license, we'll lose, we're at $550,000, which we've sort of known that ship has sailed. Even with what was proposed by the league last year, there would have been a cap, and that amount of money, if anything would come forth, would be cut at least in half, I'm confident. We'll see how all that plays out, but, and Rachel can tell you, that's just one of many bills out there right now that we get, and we try to pass on as much as we can, but certainly I think some of these items, if you would like to discuss them tonight, at least comment on them, would very much be appropriate.
I think the privilege license tax, we had so much discussion about that last year, and the governor promised that the House and Senate would get together, and then when he signed the bill, there was supposed to be a letter attached to the bill to basically say they'd come back before July 1st of 15 and have more conversation about trying to help. But first of all, there was no letter attached like supposedly it was promised. Second of all, there's nothing planned at this point in time for a conversation between the House and the Senate about the privilege license tax. So I think we can kiss that one goodbye unless somewhere or another it resurfaces back with the sales tax redistribution. And I'm not sure how that plays out this time, but that's a loss, and we move forward. Not much help from our delegation in reference to that bill, period. So.
Well, I think it's important to really have a healthy discussion amongst council and city staff about this Senate Bill 369, the Tax Fairness Act. I mean, what it basically is an Adopt a County Act, is what it is. They're really, it's all about appropriations. It is all about appropriations. And they want their hands on this money just like they did the privilege tax. But you know, the premise is that we get all the data. We understand what comes out of Raleigh, and we get good data from the league and others, and we can certainly get behind it. The local public really don't get good data on what this could potentially mean. But Harold alluded to it. You're talking about a reduction of 29%, and you're talking about a significant impact on what makes up 20% of our operating budget. I think that's the number, isn't that right, Harold, total? $3.3 million. And a couple of comments that have come out of Raleigh that says that rural counties will no longer voluntarily redistribute their tax dollars to subsidize a few rich urban counties. I don't really view us as being a rich urban county. And quite honestly, we used I-85, I-40 corridor to invest in a retail complex there to generate sales tax dollars to subordinate our efforts so we could keep our property taxes low. And we spent a lot of time and energy and money to do that. And Harold's exactly right. He talked about this. This makes the Jordan Lake rules pale in comparison because this is the gift that keeps giving. This one's goes on and on and on. And we've got no asset to offset that. We've got no improvement of assets for our citizens and the people that we represent. So, we understand that 27% of our GDP is made up of retail dollars, and we're taking advantage of that. And quite honestly, some of the municipalities and counties that they're talking about redistributing this money to have better school systems than we do. It's not, that's not what it's all about. This is all about the state taking control of annual appropriations for this money. And, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is this is about an 8-cent increase in property tax rate.
The other thing here is that the bill also indicates, the way the sales tax is broken down now, the sales tax for the state is 6.75 cents. 4.75 is kept at the state level. 2 cents goes back to the locals. In other words, it comes back to the counties, distributed in terms of you can do it ad valorem or per capita. We're per capita, which the bill says they can get rid of ad valorem, which that's where if anybody owns beach property, you may want to take a note of that one. I'm just telling you, or some mountain property. That will have a substantial impact in those areas of the state. But as our chairman of our county commissioners, who was a former legislator, was the first to speak out for this, and I will say this, against this, he said, once you lose control of that money at the state level,
It's gone.
it's gone.
It's gone.
Well, here's what it appears from a distance, it looks like. It appears that they grabbed the revenue, the privilege license tax, which was revenue to us. They're now looking at some form. This bill that was introduced is probably not going to be the exact bill that comes out of it, but there's going to be a bill, and it's going to be more grabbing of monies and dollars. So it looks like to me what they're wanting to do is grab the dollars. They'll have dollars to move around and do with what they want to. Then at the local level, we're going to be the bad guys. We're going to be the ones that's going to have to do a tax increase to regain some of that revenue. Now, that's what it looks like to me from where I sit.
Well, there's been several attempts over the last 20 years to try to support rural North Carolina. There are some areas that are struggling, that's a fact. But you don't make the weak strong by making the strong weak. Certainly that's not worked, and nothing that we've tried in the past has worked. But if you put a pencil to this, the money that this will generate and be redistributed to those entities that would be the beneficiary of it is not enough to make a difference. It's certainly not going to make an economic difference. It's not going to be able to attract new industry for them or to do anything like that. It truly is a shifting. And the most dangerous thing is, we talked about flawed science with Jordan Lake rules. This is based on 3.5% growth a year. That ain't happening. It ain't happening. It may happen this year, and it may happen next year. But what about when you have a recessive period? The noise you hear will be the money leaving the room. This is a very, very dangerous bill. It also has some caveats to give county commissioners authority to make some tax changes without referendums, which is dangerous in and of itself. I mean, the voter needs the right to speak out. But a city the size of Burlington can be so adversely affected by this that it may be non-recoverable in any near future. We need to stand up and pay close attention to this one.
And another part of this, and this is certainly not trying to say that aimed at the cities, but the cities don't have the opportunity to go in and ask for a sales tax referendum at the 0.5%. The cities doesn't have that option to do that.
Right.
The counties can do it, and the counties can keep all that money.
They
It
can
don't
keep
come
it.
back to the cities.
That's right.
whether it's a referendum or no vote, the cities don't have the ability, and the league has tried to get that on the table also. It's just I agree, sales tax is paid by a lot of people, and a lot of them don't live here, okay? Which is good for people who live here. I was talking to a guy from Caswell County the other day, and I asked him, well, we're going to send some Caswell County money to Danville then. No different.
That's right.
I mean, or anybody along the state, for that matter, on the borders. When people go to South Carolina to shop, or Tennessee, for that matter. So it's a troubling bill that, quite honestly, as long as I've been here, might have the single largest economic impact in terms of the budget. Only one time before this occurred was in the Easley administration, when he kept some allocations that's coming back to the cities. That was 2001, I believe. And I think that was like $2.1 million at that point in time. That was a one-year deal, but somehow, but then later, there was legislation passed that did not give the governor the ability to do that going forward. This one, it would be, this would become law. This is really huge for us.
Well, the governor doesn't even agree with the bill. I mean, he came out in the News Observer, not happy about it.
Well, the other thing is that when the privilege tax went away in its former format, it was based on the premise that some larger municipalities were abusing the privilege of a privilege tax.
Charlotte being one of them.
Charlotte being one of them. This is based on the fact that three of the state's richest counties have disproportionate share: Mecklenburg, Wake, and Durham. So we don't fit in that category. That's not how we're geared or how we're set up. And there's some merits to saying that we should be the recipient of this instead of the provider, simply because we've had a shift in our economic engine. We don't do agriculture here. We don't do textiles anymore. We're trying to reinvent ourselves. So it is just a very dangerous bill that could have a lot of effect on our budget from a standpoint. There's a lot of entities that we support, and when you have to take a look at a budget because of impact this size, you got to look at where you can cut. You can't look at just raising taxes. You got to look at who you can cut. And there's a lot of people that receive funds that are distributed through the city of Burlington that are going to have to be put on the table. Is this worth this? Can we afford to do this? So this is not just about property taxes. This is about a lot of other entities not, possibly being cut out of some funding as well.
Any other comments?
Seems like to me that the inmates have taken over the insane asylum in Raleigh. Looks like to me.
Any other comments?
Oh, we've seen what happened with the lottery and funding school construction. Those dollars seem to disappear, so it just doesn't feel like something that we can count on follow through.
Any other comments? Any other comments, Mr. Owen?
No.
Okay, brings us public comment period, and we had none. Brings us city council comments. To staff, Easter egg hunt, outstanding. We appreciate it. It was well attended. A lot of positive momentum there with the park and families enjoying a wonderful day. Harold, one thing I want to mention about the public transportation, if you could get staff to consider looking at a route from East Burlington to ACC. Some of the comments that I've heard talks or speaks about, if I can get from East Burlington to AMRC, then I could get from East Burlington to the community college. So if we could have some conversation and conversation about that, I would appreciate that for the next meeting. Any other comments?
Well, Mayor, I agree with that comment, and it is definitely, part will tell you that it's difficult to get ridership going in one direction if they've got to go in the opposite direction to start it, so I would agree with that. But as we take a look at that again as being a possible alternative or possible enhancement, and I think it's necessary to do so, I think we need to really consider about a funding source from the county to help offset that expense, because that really is not that's not a Burlington proper route. It's going to obviously go outside of Burlington. And we probably need to readdress the rental use tax issue that came up in the past that was really not supported, but it would have very minimal impact on our local entities, and would certainly generate enough money to possibly cover that and make it a much more sustainable route. So I would like to maybe have that dialogue as well.
Okay. Any other comments from
Mr. Butler,
council?
on that rental use tax, I remember your conversation early on, being in a car business, you gave me a percentage of the people where that money came from.
Yeah, if you look at it, and I'm very familiar, I have a rental car operation that has over 100 units, so we see the breakdowns completely, but 65-70% of the rental car bills are paid for by insurance companies. So it doesn't have a direct effect on the actual renter. For instance, if you have an accident and your vehicle's in a body shop, your insurance company's going to pay for that rental. You're not paying for the tax to support that rental. It'd be real similar to an occupancy tax in a hotel. And then out-of-town travelers are going to make up about 20% of that. And corporate and business use, about 5%, and the difference, about 5% or so, is going to be residential, maybe vacation usage or things like that. So most of it are going to be paid by out-of-town and by insurance companies. It really would have no impact on the industry itself to be able to do business, nor those in our community that would need it.
Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Don't forget your T-shirts, guys.